Hey friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and I have a lot of cinches. And in general, I guess technically this is not a cinch, it's a planner punch board. But what I want to do in this video is give you a compare and contrast against all of the various different cinches that I have and let you know what I think the differences are between them. Now, the universal cinch is new to me. It's the newest in my craft room, and I haven't really had a sufficient amount of time crafting with it yet and understanding all of its uniqueness and the nuances of working with it. But I kind of understand functionally how it is different to the others, and so that's what I'm going to concentrate on in this video. Why might you want one of these products over the other? Do you need them all? Certainly not. And what do I use them for, and why do I have so many? So what I'm going to do is clear all of these off, and then I'm going to get started with a breakdown comparison of the ones that I feel are maybe overlapping a little bit in functionality and why you might want to choose one over the other. Okay, I think this is a good place to start because these two machines do have a little bit of, quite a lot of overlap, I should say, not just a little bit. And it's the thermal cinch. Both of them also have a different binding mechanism to the other ones. And so they are in a class of their own. And just so that you can see, these two allow you to create what's called perfect bound notebooks, or you may consider them, I guess, glue bound notebooks, where really there's like a strip of glue that these pages are held into, and that's what is keeping everything bound together. If you buy paperback books, for example, usually it's perfect bound on a much larger industrial, machine, of course. But these machines, the thermal cinch and the Minc cinch, let you do this style of binding. Now, you're never really going to be able to lay this completely flat in the same style as, say, like a wire-bound notebook or Coptic stitch binding. But I have a technique that I like to use when I do any of my thermal cinch perfect binding that gets it to lay pretty darn flat. I mean, you can see the covers are really flat. Now the notebook pages are always going to be a little bit arced like this, just because of the nature of how it's bound together. But the notebook covers can open really flat. So these are just a couple that I've made that have a little bookmark with a charm. I've got lots of tutorials on the style of binding, and particularly my lay flat binding. This notebook I love. It's a hardcover. So I've got a tutorial on this too. So this one I've got like the little headband and tailband, and I've got the bookmark, and it's a chunky notebook. But this too, the covers will lay perfectly flat. So and this is very reinforced because it's I got some Tyvek sheets here so that it's going to be long lasting, and I really like this notebook. So this is the style of notebook that you can create with a thermal cinch. Now, what's the difference between the thermal cinch and the Minc cinch, and why might you want one over the other? To be honest, if your budget fits, if you find a good deal, I would get the Minc Cinch because there's way more functionality, and it's functionality that so normally the thing that I am often wary of is if there's a tool that has like so many different functions to it, likely it's going to do maybe a couple things really well, and then some of those other things it's not going to be all that great at. Because like the more complicated the machinery, the more potential that things can go wrong because there's just multiple points of failure possibly. But with this machine, there's really one thing that it does, and well, maybe two things, but the main thing is that there is a heating element in here. So some kind of plate in here heats up, and that's the core functionality. But what it allows you to do, like that's the mechanism of it, but what it allows you to do is you can do your thermal cinch binding, so your perfect binding. You can do lamination, hot and cold. More on that. I've since my first look video, I've learned what cold lamination is. And you can do foiling because foiling requires heat as well. Now, the second core mechanical feature of this is that there are rollers that feed paper, take paper in from one side and then feed it through to the next. And so that's really it, because laminating and foiling essentially apply the same, three things: heat, pressure, and I guess the speed of the rollers going through. So really the difference is might be in perhaps the temperature that the heating element heats to, maybe the pressure that's applied to it, etc. But I don't really think this is doing anything to really apply pressure. I think more it just uses the little pouch, that you would put your project in between to feed it through. So in one machine that is a little bit larger in terms of the footprint of it, so if I line these up, you can't see the overhang, but I can definitely see it. It's maybe an inch, maybe more like 2 inches. So if I line it up exactly on this left hand side, you can see it does extend a little bit further by about that much. Which if I were, it's hard to measure because this is curved, but I would put it at maybe 2 inches in this direction. In terms of the depth, I think they are about the same. So not a ton larger, but you're getting a lot of functionality out of this. And in particular, the option to foil, I think, is really nice, especially if you don't have a foil, any other type of foiling machine. Cold versus hot lamination. Cold lamination is just essentially a sticker. It's adhesive backed, clear acetate essentially, and what this is letting you do is when you feed it through, it doesn't apply any heat as lamination normally would. It just applies pressure, and even pressure throughout in theory, so that you have a nice adherence, but you could easily just like burnish those cold lamination sheets by hand if you wanted. Hot lamination is is applying a little bit of heat to activate the adhesive on that sort of clear acetate so that it actually adheres to your pages through the heat and pressure that's applied. And then foiling, again, through heat and pressure, melts because the heat will melt. Usually it's like a toner based design, and that will grab onto the foil, which then transfers that foil to your substrate. And of course, with the binding, the heat plate in here, all that does is it just melts that glue strip that all your pages are adhered to, and that's it. So really, there's not a lot of deviation between these functions. So as a multi-tool, I think it does pretty much all of them pretty well because it's really, they all rely, on heat, most of them, not the cold lamination. And so, so really the functionality that this has that the regular original thermal cinch doesn't is that roller mechanism where you can feed, a project through between those lamination or the foiling sheets and then or carrier sheets, and then have it either laminate or foil. So for a little bit extra money, you can get a lot more uses out of this. And the one thing that I would say is that if you already have something else perhaps that does foiling and lamination, and you don't have anything that will do thermal cinch binding or perfect binding, you might be able to find this on super clearance, because with the Minc cinch out, I really don't think that I think that's meant to pretty much replace just the thermal cinch, because this is essentially like a single-use product now, and all of that functionality is now packed into this. So I don't know for a fact, but it would not surprise me if American Crafts, We Are Makers, if they actually have stopped producing the thermal cinch. So the places that still have it, it might start getting super clearance. I mean, I've seen it already on sale for 60% off in some places, as they try to kind of clear out their inventory. So that is the difference between the thermal cinch and the Minc cinch. They both work really well. So especially if you don't have anything by way of foiling or thermal cinch binding, having one tool to do it all is really, really nice. All right, so I'm going to clear these off, and then let's take a look at the other cinch products that I have. Okay, so when it comes to wire-bound notebooks like these, that's where the other cinches shine. So let's take a look at the various different ones, and I'll kind of share them with you in order of like where I first started, which was here, the planner punch board. So with the planner punch board, it's small, it's compact. It actually comes with different sets. Kind of depends on, I think, the bundle that you buy. Because I think it's been so long now, I can't 100% remember. But I think if you just get the basic, you get one set of these, but I got the full set so that I have a lot of different options. And this planner punch board, actually, if you're looking for something that is pretty, I guess, in a sense, universal, this actually is quite nice. The only thing is that it's not heavy duty. So if you needed to punch a thick notebook like this, it would take you a little bit of time to do that. But look at all of the different options that you have, because you've got mushroom hole punches. So if you're not familiar, these actually let you do disc bound notebooks. And it may seem like these are kind of the same, but they are not. If you look at the metal, look at the metal and the position of the hole punch. See how this is centered, and then the hole is actually shifted a little bit to the right. There's a reason behind that difference, and it's because this actually has guidelines. If you needed to punch, let's say, I think a really practical use for this might be that, let's say you have a happy planner, or one of these popular planners, and you just wanted to maybe punch your own custom divider or punch your own custom dashboard, because it's like maybe you have a special monthly dashboard that you like to use in your planner. Punching a few of those out, a dozen of those, might not be that big of a task, and it's just a one-off. You just do it the one time, at the beginning of the year, and then you're done. This table back here actually gives you a guide for which punch to use and how to space it. So down here at the bottom, there's actually numbers. And it's kind of etched, or it's not like painted or screen printed on. It's actually molded into the plastic. Makes it a little bit harder to read, but it makes it permanent and kind of easy to kind of feel and see, I think. But down here, especially with the disc bound, the numbers are indicated in kind of that pink or gold color. And so you can see sometimes you use a pink punch, and sometimes you use the gold, even on the same type of notebook. And the reason for that is because they have figured out what the spacing is, and they tell you exactly where to set these punches in and which ones to use. And then and if you make your own custom planner, notebook, whatever, and you have a standard of your own, that's what this was. I used to make my own. I think I used it as like a planner, monthly planner, and this is what I punched at. And I just kept it here as a washi just so that I would, because there was no chance I would actually remember. So that's kind of nice. So this lets you kind of punch holes, and it gives you a guide for punching like replacements to your other more standard or familiar planners and journals and notebooks and whatnot. Now, the but that's not it, because it lets you do that. It lets you do just holes. It's just like each of these is just like a little hole punch. And so you can set your holes in, and this lets you punch for like a ring bound binder, for example. And you just need to figure out what spacing you need, and you can do that. So, for example, I had I just did my first look video of the universal cinch, and I was talking about this 6-ring notebook that I have, binder that I have. And so what I could do is figure out, if I put my page here, figure out, okay, I need to put a punch here, and conveniently I can get a few of these at a time. So I just need to figure out like how many can I space in one go. Can I get all 3 of these? I might be able to. And you might have to do a little bit of trial and error, but basically I'm just trying to get this centered. I think that one is pretty centered. That one may or may not be. And then we'll put this one in. And so you would punch, in theory, hopefully I would be able to just flip to the back and punch again. And then I can get refill sheets for my notebook or create my own dividers for my notebook. So it lets you even customize to whatever specific, maybe you bought something and it's not like fitting in with a standard. You can kind of figure out the spacing yourself. And I think this one's going to be a little bit off, this middle one, but you get the idea. So that's kind of nice. Then, still not done. If you get like the full bundle like I have, there's also this set of punches. And this set of punches, so this is more just holes for your, say, binder, ring binders. This is 3 different punches that fit 2-to-1 pitch, 3-to-1 pitch, 4-to-1 pitch. Kind of forgot that I had this, in fact, because I have 3-1 pitch spiral wire, and I've had it for years, and I just figure I don't have anything to punch that, but I actually do. But you can see this only can punch like 1 inch at a time, because 4-to-1 means there's 4 holes per every 1 inch. 2-to-1, there's 2 holes per every 1 inch. So essentially, each of these can only punch 1 inch at a time. So if you needed to punch for this notebook is 5.5, so I would need to punch 5 times. And this type of punch, it's, as I mentioned, it's not super heavy duty. You're not going to be able to punch through, I don't think you can punch through like medium weight chipboard. Lightweight chipboard might be the maximum thickness, and maybe a couple few, sheets of copy or text weight paper. It would take some time. Very occasional, if you needed to do a divider or something like that, I think it would be great. If you don't mind taking the time and you're just making one journal for yourself as a one-off, for example, then maybe it's not, that big of a deal. You're making a notebook for yourself, maybe a couple notebooks to give as gifts, because I do think notebooks are a great gift. And so that could be just fine for your purposes. Quite a lot of flexibility, and that is the thing that this is great for, which is the variation, all the different types and styles of punches, wire bound, disc bound, ring. You got a lot of different options here, and it's not that big of a tool, and it's also not that expensive as compared to some of the other options that I'm going to show. And I'll show you, I keep it in this little container here, and it has a nice lid. And this is like a stackable, so I just have stacks of these. You can kind of see I'm a big fan of We Are Makers, a longtime fan before they started sending me the occasional product for review. So this is how I kind of keep everything nice and tidy and contained. So I have all the different little accessories all in one place. Okay, so where did I go next? From that, I really started enjoying making notebooks, like a lot. And I wanted to make them to give as gifts. And so that landed me here at the This isn't like the very first like OG cinch, but I think it might be because their original was like I think all teal. Um, but it's pretty up there. It's the original style, maybe not their very first edition. But what's nice about it is that you can punch 12 holes. This is it only punches in a very specific spacing, which is 2 to 1. So if it's 12 holes and there's 2 holes per every 1 inch, basically you can punch up to 6 inch wide project at a time. So for these like little mini notebooks, which is just A2 size because it's a convenient cut for US letter copy paper, I can just cut it in 4. It's perfect. I just need to punch 1 time. And it only actually uses 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 loops. And normally when you buy these loops, they come in I think 11-inch long, and I think it's 21 double loops. So usually with 1 wire I can get 2 notebooks. Also very efficient. So that's why I really like this. It's heavy duty. So when you go to punch, it actually, you can punch medium weight chipboard. You can punch, probably an 1/8 inch thick paper, stack of papers. And what makes it heavy duty is well, I think the metal punches are pretty heavy duty, but also as I pull this lever down, you're gonna notice, see how these are going down at different pacings. So that means that if each of those is a punch, you can kind of see the metal come through at the bottom. Each of them punches a hole, and they're each hitting your stack of papers at a different time. And so that way, at any given moment in time, as you are pushing this down, the force that you are applying downward, it's not spread across every single one of these, kind of hitting the papers evenly. As some hit, the force is getting more kind of concentrated there, and then as others begin to hit, and some of the earlier ones are all the way through, then more of your force is applied towards that. I mean, it's the one handle going down, but it's just the nature of what's actually hitting the page and what's creating resistance. And so that's one of the things that is really nice about this, because if you like to make a lot of projects to give as gifts, I don't know about people who sell, like if you need something heavier duty, but I guess it just depends on the volume that you make. But it's definitely nice as a gift giver, somebody who's making these projects to give, because you can punch through a lot, you can make several in no time. If you're doing like a large volume business, maybe you need heavier duty machinery than this. But I think selling at craft fairs and whatnot, you could probably get by with this, just depending on your sales volume. And so that is kind of nice. You can punch larger scale projects than this if you want, because this can do continuous punching. All of the cinches can. The other thing that's nice about this is that it can take a variety of diameter wires. So this can go from 3/8 of an inch up to 1 1/4. So that's kind of nice, because if you sometimes you might want something a little chunkier, or sometimes it's okay, you might be perfectly fine with something that's a little bit less chunky. So those are your options with this the original cinch. It comes in 2 different holes, style of holes. The original We Are Makers is circular holes, and then if you get the Heidi Swap one, those are square holes. So otherwise, it's the same. It's the same between the Heidi Swap and the original cinch. It's just what style of holes do you like better. Oh, the other nice thing with this is that you can always pull these pegs out if you don't want that particular hole to punch. Like, it's actually can be kind of fun to just create like a pattern of holes and not always punch all of them. And then that way, if you have smaller sections of like leftover wire, you could maybe do like 4 or like 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and then just skip the ones in the middle. And I think it's going to still be a plenty secure notebook, but it lets you, like, if you have little scraps, you can do that. I've done perpetual calendars using like little scraps and a creative little hole punch pattern. So being able to choose which holes punch and which ones don't can be kind of helpful, because then you can use different lengths of wire, and also you can avoid if a hole is getting like maybe a little bit too close to the edge, you can kind of avoid a partial hole punch very easily. So that is the original size punch. Now what I don't have is the mini punch, the mini cinch, but I do have the disc cinch, which is kind of about the same size, I believe, and I don't have the mini cinch for comparison, but it is roughly, I think, the same size as this in terms of footprint. The mini cinch might be a good option for you if you like to punch for small projects like these. It takes up a lot less space. It may not be quite as heavy duty, and as well, it only does one size. So, for example, and I'll show you the multi-cinch next. But this is actually the disc cinch, which is differentiated with the pink handle and little extras. The disc cinch lets you punch mushroom holes. And it's always going to be in that spacing. All 4 mushroom holes punch whenever you pull the lever down. You can do continuous punching by just sliding your project down and then locking this into a previously punched hole that's the same as over there. So there's familiarity between these various projects, various punches and cinches, and this has a little guide here. So depending on the size paper, this helps you kind of get even spacing for your project. I tend to use the centering line more than I use this guide, but it is nice to have because it's easier to kind of butt something up against like a physical guide than to line something up against to a line. So that's the mushroom hole punch. It's a very specific, type of binding. And so I really started getting into disc-bound journals and planners and whatnot. And I just like the fact that you can reorganize things, not just tear a page out, but reinsert it, like insert it back in into your disc-bound, but just maybe in a different order. So these two together, I feel like had a good place. I felt good about having both of these. They both did very distinct things, and it didn't feel like there was a lot of duplication. And then We Are Makers came out with the multi-cinch, and this is pretty cool. And I thought, okay, I don't know what We Are Makers is going to do next, because this thing does it all. So the multi-cinch lets you do a variety of different hole punches for a variety of different binding styles. And let's start with, now what it has are these swappable punches. This is pretty heavy. It's heavy duty metal and machinery here. And you can kind of do what I call like hot swapping. So you can just swap out, for example, this is that same 2-to-1 pitch, circle holes and square holes. I always really like the square holes, but the Heidi swap cinch isn't often on sale. And most of these things that I get when I find a good sale on them. And so so it's kind of nice. I won't lie, like one of the things I like about the multi cinch is that it does the square holes, which I know is just like an aesthetic thing, but I just really like it. I really like the square holes. Now when you punch, all the holes punch at the same time. So there's 6 holes here, and all 6 will punch at the same time. Kind of similar to the mini disc cinch. Now, besides that, these are sold either as a bundle or separately. So you can pick the ones that you are most interested in. But you can swap in a mushroom hole punch. So now this disc cinch of mine is now 100% redundant because this multi cinch will do the exact same thing. The spacing is pretty much the exact same, and so it's one, like, I have not had to reach for this ever since getting the multi cinch. So now I have one thing that's like a complete redundant. Then we have, but I will say with the double loop holes here, because this is for your 2-to-1 pitch double loop wires like these, it will only work on the back here. You'll notice it's the same mechanism. You push the hammer down and it will crimp or cinch together the wires, and there's no dial. No, remember how on the original I've got a dial that helps me choose like the different diameter of wire? This will only do 5/8 inch wires. So actually what I end up finding myself doing is, because I like the square holes so much, I actually punch square holes using my multi cinch, but I actually use my big cinch to crimp the wires, because 5/8 inch is very specific. I have in my stash already. I think this is 3/4 and this is half. So do I really need something in between those two? I think between those two I'm covered. So that is one thing that's a little bit of a drawback. If you are going to be making chunky notebooks and planners, I think planners very easily get up to this size, or maybe even mini albums, because this is a mini album and it's starting to expand beyond the 1/2 inch wires that I have it in right now. And so you might want to still get the larger machine if you're going to do larger, thicker notebooks or planners. But the multi-cinch is still nice to have for the fact that you can then do other styles of binding. So, this is another style of holes, but same 2-to-1 pitch. I believe, as this, because you still have the same 6 holes, but same spacing, just a different style of hole, which kind of is cute. So really, like 3 of these punches are for the same type of binding, just aesthetically a little bit different. Then we have this, which I also forgot that I had. This is for spiral binding. And you can see there's a lot more lot more holes on this. And I think this is probably a 3-1 pitch binding. So if you look at this, this is 3-1 pitch wire, and each of those wires does line up to a hole. Oh, I'm really glad I'm just discovering this, because I found a whole box of this 3-1 spiral wire that I've had in my craft room forever, and I forgot that this will do that. So there you go, 3-1 pitch spiral bound. Then you have this, which lets you do this style of binding where you just have like a silicone band on the spine. I don't know that I'll use this all that much. It's just not a style of binding that I'm all that used to. But this Coptic stitch holes, this is pretty awesome because I love the look and functionality of a Coptic stitch bound notebook. It's you kind of have to do the sewing and the binding. It's manual, it's by hand, and it's just really a nice old school kind of way to do your binding, but always such a pain to punch the holes for the pages, for your signatures, and to punch the holes through your cover. So this has the ability for you to punch the holes for your signatures that you sew through, and use this spacer to punch the holes through your cover, so that front and back cover, when you go to sew your signatures in, your holes through your covers actually go through differently than they are for the internal signatures. And so this will do both. So having this, so I'll tell you why I got this initially. The big thing was this. This was the big motivating factor, because I like doing the Coptic stitch binding, but I don't like punching the holes. Second reason why I got it is I like the square holes. I won't lie. I know that's aesthetic, but and that's the one that's in here most of the time, because that's what I use most of the time. I think at the time that I bought it, I knew that I had that 3-1 spiral notebook and or wires, I should say, and so this was another motivating factor for getting all the punches. Then it was nice. This would have been the second reason, or maybe even the first, but I already had the disc cinch, so that wasn't really a huge motivating factor. If anything, it made me pause getting this, because the two most styles of binding that I do, or at least with this type of binding that the cinch can do, I already have had these. But if I didn't have the disc cinch, this would have been like the second motivating factor, and then Coptic stitch. And then the spiral. And then just having the extra shape holes, kind of nice. It's a nice to have. And I'll be honest, this band binding, I don't really have much of an interest in it. I tried it once, and I bought the bands. I'm not totally sold on it as a binding style that I'm super in love with. So the multi-cinch, I feel, is like really fabulous. If it weren't for the fact that it can only do 5/8 inch, I don't think you would need to go anywhere else to for your binding needs. But because it is limited, if this is a factor for you, the fact that it can only accept if you're gonna do one of these double loop wire bound type of notebooks, it can only do that one specific size, and you really shouldn't try to get it to work with other sizes, because You could maybe try to get it to work with a smaller, it can do 5/8. You can maybe try to get it to work for, not smaller, larger, like 3/4 inch, and then just sort of not go down all the way, because this is gonna go down a certain amount, and then by the time it reaches the bottom, basically what it's left is, 5/8 of an inch there. So if you have something that's larger, that's meant to be, say, 3/4 of an inch, you could maybe try to stop before you get all the way to the bottom. But to be honest, I just wouldn't do it, because it's going to be hard to be really consistent. And you might not get the right shape closure at the end of the day too. So it's just a limitation. So if you get this, just know 5/8 inch diameter spirals, double loop spirals, 2-to-1 pitch. It's the only thing that will work. Sometimes that's kind of nice, because then you just have the one option. You don't have to have a lot of different size things. Like, I don't even know why I have this really teeny one, or where that came from. But it is probably the only limitation that I see with this one is the diameter notebook that you can create. So the most recent addition to the family is the universal cinch. So the universal cinch is pretty fabulous. It is, I just did a first look video, so if you want to kind of see that, you can kind of gauge, my first impressions as I unboxed and used it for the first time. And I'm going to be using it more, and exclusively for my cinch projects, so that I can get a sense for how I like it as compared to the cinches that I'm very familiar with already. But I have already made a couple of projects. So this one is for my 3-1 spiral wires. And the difference with this, it's very similar footprint. It's probably the same as the original cinch that I showed earlier. But this punches an entirely different set, or even shape, of holes. And so that makes it kind of unique. And they at We Are Makers American Crafts, they have figured out how to create and space this kind of oblong slot here, really, so that it can fit multiple pitch wires. And this is 3-to-1 pitch, but that same set of holes works for my 2-1 pitch wires, double loop bound wires. Different style, but it still fits. And I was really pleased, I showed this a second ago, that I was able to punch for this ring notebook. I had no expectations that it would work for this 6-ring. I think this is fairly standard. This is like an A5 binder, and it works. Like, it's extra. It's got extra holes, to be sure. It's not quite as like clean, in terms of the look of it, but it works. And it's heavy duty, so I could punch a lot of these page refills easy peasy. And that's what I'm planning to do, because I bought 2 of these notebooks, one for myself and one for my mom. And so I'm going to give all of the pages, like these fancy line pages, I'm going to take all of mine out, send them to my mom so that she has, some refill pages when she needs, and punch myself some some different pages now that I can, because this cinch would not have been able to do that. Well, I don't know. I haven't really tested if 2-to-1 spacing is gonna work in this. It may happen to be that I could maybe get it to line up. I'm not too sure. I could have done it individually, because you saw with the planner punch board, I was able to line up the individual hole punches to be pretty close to one of those pages. But it is kind of nice to have this universal set of punches if I really wanted. And what I will actually do when I go to do this for real is I can pull out certain punches, certain pegs here, so that they don't punch. So just like the large one, what I can do is, since, let's see, hard to get this on camera, I don't need this first hole, so I'll just pull that out. And then I need the next 2, and then I can skip 2, and then I need 2 more. So I want that, I want to skip 2, and then I need this, and then 1 more beside it. So I would have to punch twice, or if I can figure out how to line things up, what I could do, as I'm just thinking this through, is I could punch, what I could do is I could start punching from the first set of holes. So let's get, these are hard to put back in. So I could try to line up the edge of my page somewhere off, the rails here, and then punch 2, skip 2, punch 2, because I have enough. So punch 2, skip 2, and then punch 2. In theory, punch 2, skip 2, punch 2. So in theory, this could get me all of the holes that I would need, and just the holes that I would need. And so all I would have to figure out, I'm gonna totally do this. Maybe I'll have a video on this. All I need to do is just figure out how to space this, like where to position my paper. And here's the thing. Here's one thing that I really miss, and I'm not sure why they got rid of it. These other cinches, all of the other cinches that I have the center mark. I wish this had a center mark, because if it had a center mark, and I'm just going to have to figure out where that is. I'm just going to eyeball, because there's an even number, 3 and 3, so I'll just eyeball it and make my own center mark. Because all I would then do for making my own refills is I would just find the center mark on my page, and this is how I do my normal cinch projects. Then I would just line up my center mark with like this washi. So that's what this washi is. It's the center mark. For my multi-cinch, I have a bit of washi just to extend that center mark. So I'm just gonna have to figure that out myself, since they haven't given me the center mark. I'll figure it out, and I'll still put my line of washi here. That's my plan. So so I'm excited for, to have this now. And the question is, does it pretty much make, this large original cinch obsolete? Does it make the multi-cinch obsolete? Why would anyone have any, multiples? And I would say that the disc cinch, if you're thinking about doing disc bound, see if your budget stretches to get the multi-cinch, because I think if you get the multi-cinch, it comes with the circle holes and disc bound. So you kind of get the two things that I do the most anyhow. You'll have to figure out what you would do the most of and what makes sense for you. But I think by default, if you just pick up the multi-cinch, it comes with the circle holes, which is what this is, and the mushroom holes, which is what this will do. So then the only limitation is 5/8 inch. So I do feel like if that's okay, this multi-cinch can replace these two. The universal cinch will not do mushroom hole punches for your disc-bound notebooks. So if you're going to do disc-bound notebooks at all, and you don't want to just punch individual pages, like you're going to do an entire notebook or album or planner, I think one of these is your best choice. And if I had to pick, I would pick this, because then you can do your wire bound, and you can always get these additional punches that you can swap in. You can pick those up one by one as you need them. I got it as a all-inclusive bundle, I think on HSN, in fact, and it was on sale. It was a really great deal, and so it was much less expensive than picking them up individually, because they are expensive. Like, each of these punches is like $35 or something, in that neighborhood. Don't quote me on that, but it's in that neighborhood of $30 to $40. So they can get expensive. So if you're going to do disc bound at all, definitely I would get, one of these, and I would aim for this one, just because it is a multi-purpose tool. Between universal cinch and regular cinch, in my first look video, when I actually did the cinching part to bring the closure closed, I had a little bit of a hiccup, and I'm gonna have to explore that more to see if what the deal is with that. But when I cinched it, let's see if you can still see it. Like, this one is what I cinched on here, and I think for the most part it looks okay, but there's like the very first time I cinched it, it looked very off to me. And if you look at where the wire ends up, see how it's kind of inside of the bigger loop here, and it's below it. Now this is something I cinched on this original, and if you look at this one, okay, same angle, see how the wire comes, it meets up and is just over, not under, but over the other loops. So here's a look at them side by side. So it's different. I'm not too sure why it's different. See how on the right side, it goes under the loops on the left, and then here it goes over the loops on the left, and it actually makes for a nicer, functionally I haven't really noticed a difference, but it feels like it makes for a nicer shape, this one here, which is the original cinch. Oh, I should hold it on the side. So I think the shape is a little bit, it feels misshapen here. This feels more circular once it's bound. So this is what I mean by, like, that first look video. It's just my first time using it, and it almost looks like this has a gap too. I feel like some pages could escape from this. This one, I think, closes it off really nicely, and there's no gap here. So I have to do more exploration. So between this and this, I can't give you a recommendation just yet because I've literally only made just like a handful of projects, and I pulled everything off the shelf so that I can actually compare the cinching part of each of these three. I actually literally bought 5/8 wire just so that I can test how this one cinches, because I've been using this more for as a hole punch and then I would cinch with this because of the size wires that I have. But I got different wires just so that I can test this. And so that's what I want to do, is actually dive a little bit deeper on the cinch aspect of it, and if I can get it to kind of cinch these wires the way that I'm used to seeing them on a final project, then I would definitely recommend the universal cinch over the original because of the flexibility that you have and how versatile it can be. The set of holes looks different, so you don't have like one hole per every wire. And if that matters to you, because it might, because aesthetically it is different, if that matters to you, then maybe something more traditional. But if you like to have the freedom and flexibility to use any pitch wires, to use spiral versus double loop, it's just really nice not to even have to think about that. And I know I ended up with these 3 1-pitch spiral wires because I wanted to try to do spiral binding and I bought the wrong pitch. So I just never picked up any more spiral bound wires, and I never returned that. So now it's kind of nice to have, well, now I have multiple options because the multi-cinch has that spiral bound, but it's specifically 3 1-pitch. And there is such a thing as 4 1-pitch and 5 1-pitch, I believe. And the first thing that I showed, the little punch board, that can really do it all. So I sort of feel like, this might be the most versatile of them all. Because you can do mushroom hole disc-bound holes. You can do, if you get the bundle that I got, you can do circle holes, you can do square holes, and you can do 2 to 1 pitch. You can do 3 to 1 pitch, because the 2 to 1 pitch is actually square holes, and the 3 and the 4 to 1 pitch are circle holes. So you kind of have it all. The only thing that this is lacking, and it is kind of a big thing, is if you're gonna do, this is great for spiral notebooks because you don't need the cinching part. If you're gonna do the double loop where you have to kind of cinch it closed, this doesn't really have a mechanism for that. And also it's not a heavy duty punch, so it would take a little bit of elbow grease to punch like a large stack, and you would not be able to punch something even like this is a medium weight chipboard. And these punches, I would not try it because you might get part of the way through and your punch would get stuck. So that does have some limitations, but if we're talking like just some refill pages here and there, dividers here and there, it's a great option. But I feel like if you're going to make a notebook end to end, front cover to back cover, the heavier duty cinches are what you need, because they can definitely punch through some of those thicker materials and larger stacks. Like you could punch this thin little notebook, you can punch all of the pages really for this in one go and be done. So that is a look at all of the different cinches that I have. And I think the only one that I don't have is that mini cinch, which is basically this, but smaller on the scale of the disc cinch and the multi cinch. But I think that, again, The multi-cinch, kind of like how the Minc cinch, I think pretty much replaces the need to get a thermal cinch because it covers like 100%. It's 100% duplicating that functionality. I kind of feel like the multi-cinch 100% duplicates the functionality of the disc cinch and the mini cinch. It's like they took the mini cinch and the disc cinch, they gave it to you as the multi cinch by default because I'm pretty sure you get both of those punches. And then on top of that, because these are interchangeable, you have the ability, if you don't get the full bundle out of the gates, you have the ability to pick up more of these and then get the style of holes and the style of binding punch that you need for your project. So I feel like the multi-cinch has kind of replaced the disc cinch and the mini cinch. If you're okay with the single use and single functionality and the single, diameter of the mini cinch, maybe you could get that on a great bargain because, I don't know if, just like the thermal cinch, it would not surprise me at all if We Are Makers now only makes multi cinches and they don't make as many or at all the disc cinch and the mini cinch because you don't really need them if you get this. And so if I were shopping now, I would probably start here. But to be honest, like I use this one the most. For my projects, the OG. This is recent and so I only just got this. I feel like if I can work out that whole, why it's cinching the wires the way it is, if I could work out what I'm doing wrong on this, I bet this is going to become my new go-to when I go to cinch a project. So that's where my thinking is at. If you have any of these and you want to share your thoughts below in the comments, please do. I always love seeing your comments, and I think the whole community benefits from a lot of people sharing their opinions because my opinion is just mine, and if you're shopping, you don't know which one you want to get for yourself. It's helpful to know other people's opinions and see what they don't like about a certain product, and if their way of crafting, their way of thinking, and their logic and rationale jives with your own, then maybe that's an opinion that carries a little bit more weight with you, and maybe you craft very different to me, or you have a different purpose for why you need any of these products, and so maybe you would come to a different purchasing conclusion than I have. I've kind of stumbled along the way because some of these products came out well after I started getting interested in making my own notebooks. And so these days, with so many options available to you and from the same company, no less, hopefully this video is helpful for anyone who's like not too sure why one versus another. So I hope this video has been helpful. If it is, please consider subscribing to my channel, liking this video, leaving me a comment, or maybe even leaving me a super thanks or a PayPal tip. Links to all of that in the description below. Also, you may have noticed that some of my videos actually have product links in them now. I do get a commission if you shop with those links. So not only are my affiliate links in the description box, but now you'll find that below my videos there are products shown, and those are from YouTube's affiliate program with various different merchants, and so that as well is also a potential place where you could help support me by shopping those links. And even if you don't buy the products that are listed there, if you click over and you purchase something else, that also helps me to earn and it doesn't cost you anything extra. All right, friends, that's it from me. Likely my next video will be a like a deeper dive, maybe some tutorial videos as I use the universal cinch more. And hopefully after a little bit more use, I'll be able to come up with maybe a firmer recommendation and certainly a more well-informed opinion based off of experience and use of the universal cinch. So be on the lookout for that. Probably a couple months down the road, I'll have that conclusion video because I do want to give it a fair amount of use. And because you can't, I've learned by doing these first look videos that first impressions are just that, first impressions. And I need to keep an open mind and not have that stick, because I have gone back and used products more and have completely done 180s on my first impressions. So that's why I kind of love doing the first look videos as just unedited, just stream of conscious what I think, but I definitely intend to use it more and actually develop a better opinion of it. All right, that's it for me. And so until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.